Hello everybody.
From the three of us.
From the three of us. Got baby. Hope you're all okay.
Long time no see.
Long time no see. Bit busy. So this video is basically more of a video for you to run through your labour experience.
Yeah. To sort of make anyone else who might be having an induction feel better about it.
Yeah, so little Reg is what?
12 days?
12 days old now.
Yeah, you're 12 days old.
So I guess we'll just dive right into your experiences.
And so probably should start off with why I had an induction.
Aye. So you got to 41 weeks.
Yeah, so I went into hospital around 40 weeks and 5 days-ish. No. Yeah. Just over 40 weeks for reduced movement, didn't I? And there was talk of inducing me just because it was my third episode of reduced movement throughout my pregnancy. But they decided not to, and instead to send me for a growth scan. So I went the next day for a growth scan, and because his head was so far down in my pelvis, basically they couldn't measure it, so his whole body was measuring small. So we had to be induced, didn't we? So I was actually set to be induced the next day. So I was induced when I was 41 weeks, which was Friday the
26th.
Yeah, Friday. Oh yeah, Friday the 26th. I was induced, and his due date was the 19th. So as I said, I was a week over when I was induced, and they put me on the 24-hour, or put in me, the 24-hour pessary, which is basically like I think it looks like a tea bag, but it just basically goes. Sorry, this is gross, but I feel like the reason you're watching this is to be informed. It goes up inside you, right, and it touches against your cervix.
That was a bit much, wasn't it?
To help it. No, it's not. It goes up inside you. They have to put it right up inside you and to put it against your cervix. Now that I didn't think hurt at all, but I've had 3 stretch and sweeps, so. But some people think that's quite painful, but yeah. I didn't.
And like you went in on the Friday, and I came in with you in the afternoon, but had to leave at 7.
I'm getting there.
Sorry.
So because of COVID, the visiting hours are a bit different. Like normally you'd be able to stay in through the whole induction, but you couldn't due to COVID. So I went in at 3:30, and that's when I was going to be induced. But because his heart rate was all over the place, up and down, they couldn't induce me. So at 7 o'clock, I was still being monitored, no further movement, and then Adam had to go home.
That sucks a little bit, because obviously I'm leaving my child and you in a hospital in the hands of obviously capable people, but it wasn't a fun experience to come home alone and then try and spend the night sleeping on my own in a giant bed. So,
so they actually ended up putting the pessary in at 1 o'clock in the morning, and bearing in mind I'd had no sleep because I'm monitored. There's like 15 other women in this ward being induced. So they put it in at 1 o'clock, and then pretty much straight away the contractions started. And they were, how often were they? Like, it was like every 3 minutes, they were about 2 minutes long. So like every 5 minutes there was a contraction and then some rest. But that started pretty much straight away. And the pessary is in for 24 hours. So I wouldn't have had it removed or changed until 1 o'clock the following morning.
Sunday?
Saturday morning.
Okay.
No, Sunday morning. Yeah, sorry. I will insert some clips of some contractions that I was having. The first one that we'll put in was, what time in the morning would that have been? I can find out, but it was probably like 3 in the morning. I went into the bathroom and put the shower on and stuff as well because they were horrendously painful. Yeah, so I'm just being honest. For anyone that's being induced, they are painful.
And if you're going into labour and being induced, please don't send your partner a video of you having contractions to wake up to. Because I woke up at 5:30 to a video of you in absolute agony and couldn't do anything. So that was fun.
I wanted you to be part of the experience.
Not in that way. So don't do that if you're in pregnancy.
I just thought I wanted him to see what I was going through. So that was at sort of 3 a.m. You then came at 8:30.
I rang up the hospital and said what time am I allowed to be there.
There was such conflicting information. Some people said 2 o'clock, some people said 10 o'clock, some people said... So you've only been asked. So
I was told I could be there from 8:30 because you were being induced. I think it was slightly different for somebody who was in natural labour, wasn't it?
It was different for people. Some people were in because their waters were leaking and they needed to be monitored and they weren't necessarily in labour, that sort of thing.
Good morning. It is 2 minutes past 6 in the morning on Saturday. Excuse me. Yeah, it's 2 minutes past 6 in the morning on Saturday. So, yesterday, came home, did a lot of cleaning, dusting, hoovering, trying to take my mind off the fact that my girlfriend was at hospital all right. Not great. Soph was very upset, obviously, when I left. I think where, we'd spent all of lockdown pretty much in each other's pockets, which is obviously lovely. I think the first day of, separation, to go and have a baby was a bit much. Obviously, pretty sombre car journey back home, but just tried to keep busy tonight, or last night even. I've just had a really broken sleep. I was tossing and turning most of the night, and then I woke up to a few messages from Soph basically saying that her contractions had started after having a pessary. So she's had no sleep. And then she also sent me a video of her having a contraction alone in a bathroom. Not what I needed to see this morning, but I've just chatted to her over WhatsApp and she seems okay. Just the contractions are very, very painful. So currently she's saying that I think she's having a bit of a reaction to the pessary used. So she's getting a lot of contractions at the moment and not a lot of breaks in between them, which isn't normal. So she's just being monitored, I think. And then they're going to make a decision on what to do next. But basically I need to be up, washed, dressed. Thankfully I showered last night. Basically I think today is just holding Soph's hand through this second stage of things, I guess.
So I necked a Monster energy drink and then got in the car and went straight away to the hospital, and then kind of met you in the middle of horrendous contractions. Yeah, they were really, the contractions at this point were really bad. So the pain relief that I'd had at this point was
paracetamol, codeine, and that's all I'd had at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I then, hey, happy baby. I then, later on in the day, I think when you came in, we went for a walk and they were really bad, weren't they?
Yep.
So I then asked for oral morph.
Yeah, which is basically morphine, but you can take it
like in a drink.
Orally.
But I honestly don't think the medication that I took touched the contractions. It almost just made in between the contractions bearable. Because I'd not slept, and so I found myself falling asleep in the middle of contractions. All
for good reason, because we didn't quite realise how far along you were.
Yeah, so I kept saying, so as I said, you don't get, you don't get checked for 24 hours with the pessary, but I just knew that something was happening because these contractions were really, really strong. I knew it was more than like 1 centimetre.
Labor,
yeah, so really?
Yeah.
Anyway, so I was contracting all day, every 3 minutes for 2 minutes, right?
No, every 2 minutes for a minute.
No,
the
they were 2
contractions
minutes
were
long.
a minute long.
Oh, were they?
Yeah.
Oh, every 2 minutes for a minute. I got that wrong. And about 4 o'clock?
Maybe 4, yeah.
I just basically I'd had Oromorph, I'd had Pethidine.
Yes, you had an injection of pethidine into your thigh, which did help with you. It kind of eased off the pain so you could relax a little bit. You were like sleeping and then waking up in horrendous pain.
I don't think it eased off the pain. No. I think like it just
helps you relax.
At one point, I don't know what drug I'd taken, but I was like hallucinating, I think. I don't know whether that was through tiredness or...
Yeah.
Do you remember I could see fingers coming up from underneath?
Yeah, it was an interesting experience.
I could see fingers coming up from underneath the curtain. But yeah, what's your take on all this that was going on?
It was just like, obviously quite difficult being there, just watching you, because I was absolutely controlless of what was going on and powerless as to any kind of help. So I was just literally like, grab my hand and like hugging her, and every time you had a contraction.
We were using the TENS machine.
Yeah, we were using the TENS machine, so I was in control.
Really helpful.
On and off during contractions, and then we were monitoring them on an app on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
So just so we could show the midwives, because I think we both knew that something was happening, but because you saw more than one midwife in that entire time, it was difficult to get your story across.
Yeah.
In a way where it's like, no, something's actually happening, because every time you were telling somebody it was someone new, and they were like, oh, you'll be okay, like,
but
just try and relax.
It was at the point though where like my contractions were happening and I was just crying because like I just felt like no one was listening to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like the pain meds weren't working. I was really adamant I didn't want an epidural, and I wasn't allowed an epidural anyway until I went onto labour ward. But so to go onto labour ward, you had to be 4 centimetres dilated, and then which means they'll be able to pop your waters. So 4 o'clock, I just said to one of the midwives, like, can someone check me? Because I feel like my body is doing something.
Well, your pessary came out, didn't it?
Oh yeah, I completely forgot about that. I went to the toilet for a wee or whatever, and my pessary had fallen out into my underwear, as well as my mucus plug, which is basically like a snotty, gooey...
It looks like how it sounds.
Yeah, it just basically looks like snot, basically. That fell out with the pessary. So then I asked the woman to check me, to see how dilated I was. And she was in there, rummaging around, and I could feel, like, this is TMI, I could feel her doing this. And I was like, oh, that must mean, like, you can't do that inside of you unless there's room to do it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I could feel her doing this, and I was like, oh my god, that means something. And I was expecting to be maybe, like, 4 centimetres.
Yeah, and at this point, I was like crouched on the ground next to the bed, just like hands in the head going, please God, be close enough. Like,
because I just thought, if this is only 2 centimetres, I cannot get to 10 centimetres without any epidural, and I was so adamant I didn't want it. But I was 7 centimetres.
Yeah.
7. I'd got to 7 centimetres.
But she was so calm. She was like, okay, love, well, it appears you're 7 centimetres dilated, so we're going to get you moved on to labour ward. And then at that point...
We both just broke down.
So, 7 centimetres.
How long later? 13, 14 hours?
Yeah. So we're being moved into labour ward.
Which means we're going to have a little baby boy.
day.
Tonight.
Someone's a bit wacky at the moment. But buzzing. It's so well.
We'll insert a picture here. So this picture is like us just kind of after breaking down. I was in absolute bits. I was up against the wall.
Yeah, you were crying.
Head in my hands, like. But it was just like such a relief, like a wave of emotion coming over you when somebody goes, right, we're going to go get this baby out. Because you've been in pain for so long and I just could not do anything to help you.
Yeah.
To know that it was actually progressing, I was just like, thank you.
Yeah, I think if she had said, like, you're only 2 centimetres, that would have been... Because obviously you had to go home at 7 o'clock.
Yeah,
and the thought of me doing another night alone, it was just too much. And as I said, I'd not slept at all, so it was... Anyway, I was on the gas and air. They then gave me gas and air because I think they realised actually I was probably in quite a lot of pain being 7 centimetres. But I didn't like it personally.
Yeah, I mean, you enjoyed it for the short time you had it, but you were like, I feel a bit woozy after a while.
No, it made me feel...
Dry.
It just dried me out and I didn't really like it. Like, I wouldn't have it again.
No.
Was the next one, I wouldn't go for gas and air. But, so yeah, then I was wheeled up to labour ward and pretty much, I think I went from 7 centimetres to 10 centimetres in about half an hour.
Yeah, we literally got in there. The midwife ran through a few things of paperwork. And while she was doing that, you got up to go to the loo.
I went up and I just needed a wee, I thought I needed, did I?
Yeah, and then you literally were crouching over the toilet and you were like, my water's gone!
My waters went when I stood up.
At which point the midwife wasn't in the room, so then I panicked.
But what I will say is when my waters went, it felt like his head went whoo, right into,
Yeah.
It felt like he just went straight down and if you've had a baby, you will know that feeling of like, he is coming out. And like, my body, it felt like had a rolling pin. It was just rolling him out.
Like a fruit.
Yeah, it felt like I was a fruit. Didn't it?
But yeah, I left Sophie like clinging onto the door of the toilet with her pants down her ankles. With waters everywhere. And like ran out to the midwife station and was kind of like, can somebody please help me? I think my girlfriend's waters have just gone. So we came back in.
At this point, with every contraction, it felt like my body wanted to get rid of everything inside of me. I was like, am I going to be sick? Am I going to poo myself? Like, I didn't know what was going to happen. But from that point, I feel like I was probably in that state for about an hour, but it felt like 10 minutes.
Mm.
Was I?
It was about an hour.
Yeah. So this was probably about 5 o'clock that probably happened, would you say? I don't know what I was pushing for. I haven't got a clue.
It was probably 5 when we moved into the labour room, and then around 5:30, 5:45 when active labour was in process and you were fully dilated.
Okay.
Because it wasn't long until he was out.
Yeah, so basically I got onto the bed and the midwife, who I don't think was very helpful, basically just said, like, let your body do what it wants to do.
Mm.
Pretty much. So I was... With every contraction, it honestly felt like my body was pushing him out, so I just had to, like, push along with him. But this is all a bit of a blur. I can't really remember.
Yeah, so from my experience of it...
You'll probably have to say, because I can't remember.
The contractions were, like, really hard for you, and you'd given up the gas and air because you didn't want it, even though the midwife was, like... Pushing you to take the gas and air. And then after that, it was like every contraction, it was just the midwife was just going, you need to push if your body wants to push. If it doesn't, don't worry.
But what I will say is I had to be monitored, or because his heart rate was so up and down, they had to have a monitor on me. So that was uncomfortable. I was trying to push. They were trying to move this monitor in my belly. That was not ideal.
So as you can imagine, like Sophie's in a lot of pain with the contractions, and then Reggie's like moving down every time you push. So the midwife has to adjust the belt with the monitor on it every time you've pushed.
Because he's going down and down and down.
So that was a bit of a pain, but I think it was a blur of like you were in active proper labour, fully dilated, and then at one point the midwife came and sat next to you on the bed.
And then another woman came in.
Yeah.
I don't remember her.
She came in halfway through just to assist, I think.
But yeah, so basically, like, I could feel his head, and the ring of fire is bad.
Yeah.
It's painful. So I can see why people get epidurals, because I don't think you feel any of that.
No, you do so good though. You didn't have any of it. But yeah, his head started to come out.
You looked.
I watched the whole thing and I was like, touch his head. And you were like, I don't know what's me.
Everything was so numb down there. I was like, I don't know what's me, what's his head, but...
Yeah, so his head appearing took a little while, at which point you threw out a classic line which I'm never ever going to let you forget, which was, I feel like I'm going to split in half.
Honestly, there was just one point, I think, where obviously his head was like crowning.
Yeah.
And there was one point where his head was obviously coming out. It probably got to like here. And I think I was screaming. Like, I was obviously screaming in pain.
Yeah, the hardest part was his whole head coming out and crowning. But yeah, like the midwife was trying to use her hand to kind of guide him out, which obviously there's not a great deal of space in there.
I think what it felt like she was doing was like putting her hands in and like propping him out.
Whereas in reality, she was just literally like this, like waiting for his head to come out.
I don't know, but it really hurt.
But
I don't know.
you then grabbed her wrist and were like, stop, you're hurting me. I was like, I don't know what to do here. Do I stop the midwife? Do I stop you?
But yeah.
I was just like, you can do it.
And then his head came out.
Yeah.
Quite quickly, followed by the rest of his body.
Yeah, so he did not wait around. As soon as his head was out, then his shoulders just appeared and he was fully out. And then the other midwife that was there that came in halfway through cleaned him up and popped him on your chest.
Yeah, and then you were born.
And then
it was
you were
happy
born.
birthday.
Yeah. Yeah, just a wild experience.
Yeah.
It's the greatest thing we've ever done.
So he was born at 6:11 p.m.
On the 27th of February.
So I had a 15-hour labour.
Yeah, £7.2.
Dinky little one.
Very small baby, but very healthy baby. And he latched straight away and
Yeah.
started feeding, didn't he? So that was good. But yeah, just, if you're going to go through it, honestly, just expect everything. Everybody's journey is obviously different and everybody's body is different, so it will always happen differently for you. But emotionally, as a partner, you go through the ringer of emotions. But it's so worth it. Like,
What I would say is if you are being pressured to have an induction, obviously if it's for reasons like which could really affect your child, then do it. But I kind of wish I said no and went naturally. Because I really wanted a water birth and they wanted to use my hypnobirthing, but it kind of went out the window because it just didn't go as I wanted it to go. But he's here.
Yeah, and I think the one thing we both said to each other through like the planning of it was whatever needs to happen for him to come safely needs to happen.
Yeah.
So
But,
whilst the induction was kind of out of your hands, the rest of it kind of went quickly and smoothly. So
Yeah. I will say is that I had a secondary tear. Sorry about TMI, but I basically had a perineal tear. Is that what it's called?
aye.
And some grazes, which is completely normal because I think it was just the position I was in. But nearly 2 weeks on, and it's healing really well.
Yeah, it's a few days of like painful wheeze and struggling to sit comfortably, but
It's
you got a baby.
I got the baby. So that's pretty much. Have I forgot anything?
I don't think so. I think just like the contractions you kept saying were way more than what you'd expected them to
Yeah,
be.
I thought they'd feel like a period pain, and they did not feel like a period pain. Well, to me anyway.
Yeah, I think you described it as like just a pain you've never had before.
Yeah, they sort of started in my back and would like go around the front. Oh, it was horrible. It does go in a wave though. Like it gets really, really painful, and then it like drops back down.
Yeah, and you can view it all whilst you're hooked up on the graph. So.
Yeah, so you can kind of like watch it, and then you can kind of see it going back down. You think, right, the pain's gonna ease off.
Yeah.
But I'd do it all again.
Yeah, 100%. Like the payoff is an amazing little boy. So.
Happy little boy.
But yeah.
No.
He's been very content ever since he's made his arrival, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So.
I think he was quite happy with his birthday.
Mm.
Just scraped a February baby.
Yeah, we were so adamant that he was a February baby, and then when you were induced, we were like, "Oh my god, he could be a March baby."
Yeah, because I was induced quite late.
We were like, "No, be a February baby." But yeah, he's here now. Everyone's happy. I mean, he's not happy right now, but...
Probably won't feed him, Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think there's anything else to include. Obviously, like, visiting hours affected morale, I would say.
Yeah, hopefully next time there won't be such thing as visiting hours.
Yeah, because that on the Friday when I had to leave Soph, that was awful.
I cried.
I bawled.
It was more like, my fear was that at 2 a.m, I'd go into labour, it would all happen really quick and you wouldn't be there.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, don't worry, we can FaceTime. You're like, do not FaceTime me, I will cry.
Yeah, no, don't. I FaceTimed my dad and I was crying. I FaceTimed quite a lot of people and I was crying. It's okay, we'll feed you in a minute.
But all in all, like, I wouldn't call it an awful experience. It just didn't go the way you wanted it.
No. Okay, we need to feed you.
The way you had it planned. But that's our, Sophie's labour story. We're going to go feed this little one now.
Because he's hungry. He's been quite good.
Yeah, he has been really good. Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you again on the next one. Hopefully this video has been very useful. Leave a comment down below if you have found it useful, if you're going into labour soon, or having a baby, or pregnant. But yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, little man.
Thank you for being it's your debut.
Say bye.
Bye.
Okay, cool. We'll see you on the next one, guys. Thanks very much. Bye.